Elira had grown up in a palace of glass towers and endless gardens, where sunlight bounced off every surface like a million tiny stars. Her world was orderly, predictable, and ruled by centuries of tradition. From a young age, she had been told stories about a distant species that no one had seen for generations. Humans, they were called. Stories painted them as stubborn, unpredictable, and often reckless. In her lessons, humans were more myth than reality, creatures of legend who had once challenged empires far older than her own. Sometimes the tutors would laugh, saying that humans had long vanished, leaving only their tales behind to entertain the curious young ones. Elira, sitting cross-legged on the soft rugs of the palace library, had listened politely. But deep down, a spark of curiosity grew. Far from Elira's world, in the outer edge of known space, humans lived not in palaces but in scattered colonies that struggled to survive. The colonies were small, often isolated, and far from the comfort of massive fleets and advanced technology. These were places where a single person's courage could mean the difference between life and death. Jack Carter had grown up hearing the stories of his ancestors, the ones who crossed the stars in fragile ships and fought when there seemed to be no hope. He was not a hero by choice, but by nature, quiet, thoughtful, and careful. He had earned a reputation for protecting the people around him without ever seeking recognition. The colony he called home was no different. Families scraped by, children learned the value of teamwork early, and every day felt like a battle against the unforgiving emptiness of space. On this particular morning, the colony buzzed with an unusual tension. Scouts had reported unidentified ships approaching, their shapes unfamiliar, and their movements precise. Whispers traveled like wildfire. Could it be pirates? Or something worse? Jack stood near the landing pads, eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon. Beside him, Lisa Brown, a medic with a calm voice that somehow eased the frightened, checked the supply of emergency kits and prepared for what might come. They had faced raids before, but nothing quite like this. There was a strange elegance in the way these ships moved, a discipline that hinted at an intelligence far beyond the usual threats. Back on Elira's planet, she trained in ways young nobles were expected to. She practiced strategy, diplomacy, and the art of command. Her instructors spoke often of the human legends, of their unpredictability and tenacity. Elira sometimes wondered what it would be like to see them herself. As far as she knew, humans were ghosts of the past, their stories meant to teach lessons of courage and failure. Yet, the more she imagined them, the more she felt a pull toward discovering the truth. What if the legends were only half the story? What if humans still existed and their strength had only grown? She tucked the thought away, focusing instead on the present, her first assignment as a royal observer of frontier activity. She would travel to a distant system where humans were rumored to live. Though her advisors warned that the journey was unnecessary. There was nothing there of note, they said. Humans were only stories. The human colony's alarm bells rang out that afternoon. A scout ship had returned with a message. The unidentified fleet was closing fast, and they carried weapons far beyond anything the colony had seen. Panic was rising, but Jack remained a steady presence. He organized teams to secure families, set up defenses, and communicated with nearby colonies to request backup, knowing that help might never arrive in time. Lisa worked tirelessly, moving between medics and wounded, her presence a reminder that even in fear, people could care for each other. Children watched from behind barricades, whispering questions they did not dare voice aloud. Jack knelt beside one boy, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We'll be okay," he said simply, though even he felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down. When the alien fleet arrived, it was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Ships glided silently through the blackness, their surfaces gleaming like polished stone. Lights blinked in patterns that seemed almost musical. Humans scrambled, but the aliens' movements were controlled, deliberate, and oddly beautiful. Jack led a small defense team in what they could only hope would be a delay, not a victory. Every maneuver, every barricade, every distraction was designed to buy time for families to escape. The human colonists were not warriors by nature, yet they fought with a courage born of necessity. Alira's ship, part of a larger armada, watched from afar. She had not expected to see humans in action. The precision, the fear, and yet the bravery, all of it challenged everything she had been taught. During a tense skirmish near the colony's outer fields, an unexpected accident damaged Alira's ship, forcing her to land close to the humans. Fear and anger rippled through her crew, but Alira was silent, observing the humans up close for the first time. Jack and Lisa found her amidst the chaos, shielding her from stray fire without knowing her identity. She could see the confusion, the courage, and the determination in every action they took. It was unlike anything in the stories she had been told. Humans were supposed to be gone, stories of old fading into legend. Yet here they were, living, breathing, and fighting, not for glory, but for life itself. Alira spent the night in the makeshift human settlement, hiding from her own fleet's patrols. She watched Jack move from family to family, checking on each person, offering comfort or a steady hand. Lisa tended the wounded, never losing her calm even as explosions echoed in the distance. Engineers and farmers, people she would have considered ordinary, displayed creativity and courage that defied her expectations. She listened to their stories, not the myths of battle taught in schools, but tales of daily struggle and survival. She realized that humans were not legends of strength alone, they were legends of persistence, of enduring against impossible odds without losing their humanity. As the night deepened, Alira sat beside a small fire with Jack and Lisa. She asked questions, her voice soft, almost hesitant, about their lives, their hopes, and their fears. Each answer chipped away at the barrier of disbelief she had built. Humans were more than stories. They were real, tangible, and far more resilient than she had imagined. She saw the unity, the laughter in small moments, and the determination that carried them forward even when the future seemed uncertain. By the time dawn broke, casting soft pink and gold over the colony, Alira understood something fundamental. Humans had survived because of their courage and compassion, not just weapons or technology. The legends she had been told were incomplete. Humans were more than myth. They were living proof that even the smallest spark could endure the vastness of space. Far above, the alien fleet observed the colony, unaware that one of their own now questioned the foundation of their beliefs. Alira knew that she could not return to her people and report the humans as mere legends. She had seen them, fought beside them in small ways, and witnessed their courage firsthand. Somewhere deep inside, a seed of admiration, and something more complicated. Perhaps respect had taken root. The universe she knew, once orderly and certain, suddenly felt far more complex. Humans were not extinct, not merely stories to entertain young nobles. They were here, and they were alive, and in that realization, Alira felt the thrill of discovery for the first time in her life as the sun rose higher, casting light over the colony and the scattered ships. Jack, Lisa, and Alira stood together, watching the horizon. The human settlement had survived the first wave, but everyone knew more challenges lay ahead. Alira did not yet know the full extent of what would come, but she understood this. Humans were not only real, but formidable. And somewhere deep in her mind, she wondered if she had been chosen to witness the revival of legends that were far from finished. The morning air was crisp and sharp, carrying the scent of metal and dust from the human colony. Alira had spent the night listening to stories from Jack and Lisa, her mind still turning over everything she had seen. Humans were far more resilient than the legends suggested now, and she could feel her own curiosity growing stronger with every passing hour. She had thought she would arrive to find myths and shadows, but instead, she found living proof that humans had survived against all odds. Jack moved through the settlement with quiet efficiency, directing people to reinforce barricades and secure supply caches. Children who had woken early clung to their parents as they watched the adults prepare. There was no bravado here, no desire for glory. Every action was measured, deliberate, and meant to protect others. Alira followed at a distance, observing how humans worked together seamlessly, despite fear, despite exhaustion. She had been trained in diplomacy and strategy, but what she saw here was different. It was instinctive, raw, and deeply human. By midday, scouts reported that a portion of the alien fleet had arrived in orbit. The ships shimmered in the sunlight, their sleek surfaces reflecting the tiny human buildings below. Tension rippled through the colony like an electric current. The humans had faced threats before, but the scale of this fleet was unlike anything they had ever seen. Jack gathered a small group of volunteers to organize a defensive perimeter, knowing full well they could not win a conventional battle. His plan was simple: slow the enemy, buy time for the civilians, and survive long enough for them to escape if necessary. Elira's ship, damaged from the previous day, was still hidden near the colony's edge. She had been observing quietly, learning not just from Jack's actions, but from the humans themselves. She saw farmers, who during the day tilled soil and tended livestock, taking up arms without hesitation to protect the colony. She watched engineers repairing and modifying old vehicles to serve as improvised defense machines. Even children helped where they could, carrying water, passing messages, and comforting each other. The humans were far from helpless. And Elira began to understand why their legends had persisted. It was not just about fighting skill, but about courage and determination in the face of impossible odds. As the alien fleet descended, a detachment moved closer to the colony, scanning the area with precision. Jack and his team prepared for the first encounter, knowing it would be more of a distraction than a true victory. Elira followed silently, careful not to reveal herself. The humans faced the aliens with calm determination, using barricades, trenches, and improvised weapons. They were outmatched in technology, but their knowledge of their environment and their unity gave them an edge. Elira watched as Jack led a counter-maneuver, drawing fire away from families. His own body taking hits that would have been fatal to a lesser human in a tense moment. Elira's presence was discovered by a small alien scout team. They had orders to capture or neutralize any intruder, but Jack's quick thinking saved her. He and Lisa rushed to intercept, creating a distraction that allowed Elira to slip back into hiding. She realized that humans were capable of remarkable bravery. It's not because they were fearless, but because they valued others above themselves. Every human she had met so far was willing to risk their own life for someone else, and it was a quality she had never truly understood before. That evening, after the alien patrols had withdrawn slightly, Elira joined Jack and Lisa at the central settlement tent. She wanted to learn more about these humans, to understand how they could maintain hope and courage when faced with such overwhelming odds. Jack spoke quietly about his upbringing, about the stories of explorers and soldiers who had come before him, and about the responsibility he felt toward his people. Lisa shared her experiences as a medic, describing the moments that had nearly broken her, and how she had found strength in the trust and support of those around her. Elira listened, absorbing every detail, fascinated by the simplicity and depth of human resilience. As night fell, the colony prepared for what they knew would be another wave of attacks. Fires burned to provide light and warmth, shadows flickering across the faces of those who had worked tirelessly to survive. Elira moved among them, offering assistance where she could, learning the human ways of teamwork and trust. She realized that humans did not fight for personal glory or power. They fought because it was necessary, because they could not imagine leaving others behind. The alien fleet, in contrast, seemed to value only control and conquest. It was a difference that Elira could feel in her bones, and it unsettled her. She began to see that the legends she had grown up with were incomplete. Humans were not just stubborn or reckless. They were capable of remarkable unity and compassion. The next morning, a skirmish erupted on the outskirts of the colony. A small group of aliens attempted to breach the perimeter, but Jack had anticipated the move. He led a team to intercept, using the terrain to their advantage. Elira observed from a safe distance, heart pounding. As humans engaged in tactics that relied on ingenuity rather than brute strength, even when they were outnumbered, they adapted, improvised, and persevered. The aliens were frustrated, unable to predict the humans' next move. For the first time, Elira saw fear reflected in their movements. During a brief lull, Elira stepped forward to speak with Jack. She asked about his motivations, about why humans continued to resist when the odds were so clearly against them. Jack's answer was simple but profound. Because someone has to. Because if we don't, who will? We fight not for victory, but to protect each other. It's what keeps us human. Lyra felt a surge of respect and admiration. These humans, once thought to be myth, were alive, and their courage was real. It was a lesson she would carry with her, one that no story or legend had ever truly captured. Later, when the alien commanders demanded surrender, Lyra intervened discreetly. She warned the humans of the fleet's superior numbers, yet also recognized their determination. Jack and Lisa coordinated the evacuation of vulnerable families while preparing for another defensive stand. The humans moved with a quiet efficiency that belied the fear in their eyes, driven by a sense of duty and care for each other. Lyra felt herself drawn to their resilience, to the way they found hope even in impossible situations. She realized that humans were not merely surviving. They were thriving in their own way, creating bonds and demonstrating strength that her people had long underestimated. As night fell again, Lyra sat with Jack and Lisa, watching the stars and reflecting on the day's events. The humans had proven their ability to endure, to fight with heart and mind, and to protect what they valued most. Lyra's understanding of humans had shifted completely. They were no longer myths or stories. They were living proof of what determination and compassion could achieve. She felt a connection to them that was both professional and deeply personal. Recognizing that this encounter would change the way her people viewed humans forever, the human colony, battered but unbroken, continued to prepare for the challenges ahead. Lyra knew that more confrontations were inevitable, and that her own loyalties would soon be tested. But for the first time, she felt a genuine excitement about the unknown. The humans she had observed were teaching her that legends could be real, that courage could defy expectation, and that the heart of a warrior was measured not by conquest, but by the willingness to protect others at all costs. As the fires burned low and the settlement settled into uneasy sleep, Lyra understood that the story of humans was just beginning, and she was determined to witness every chapter. Lyra had spent several days observing the humans up close, and each day revealed something new. She had seen courage, compassion, and ingenuity, but she had also seen fatigue and doubt. The humans were not invincible. They were real, flesh and blood beings struggling against a force that could easily overwhelm them. Yet, what impressed her most was their determination. They refused to give up, even when the odds were stacked against them. She began to understand that their strength came not from weapons or numbers, but from a shared sense of purpose and a willingness to stand for each. Jack had become a central figure in the colony's efforts. Every morning, he led patrols, repaired barricades, and checked on the families who had been evacuated from the most vulnerable areas. Lisa moved beside him, tending to the injured and ensuring that morale remained high. Engineers like Kevin Ross were working around the clock, modifying vehicles and machinery to create effective defenses from limited resources. Even simple tools were repurposed creatively, demonstrating a level of adaptability that Lyra had never witnessed in her own disciplined and predictable. World.era found herself drawn to the people she observed, learning their routines, their small victories, and their quiet moments of despair. She saw farmers like Rachel Hughes taking turns on watch while still tending the fields, ensuring that the colony could continue to function even under threat. She watched children who had been given small tasks, taking responsibilities seriously and helping where they could. The humans' ability to balance fear with action was remarkable. Every choice was made with care, every movement intentional. Lyra realized that humans were not reckless, as the legends had suggested, but profoundly thoughtful in their bravery. One afternoon, Lyra joined Jack on a supply run to a nearby warehouse. As they navigated the narrow corridors, she saw the way he communicated with others, through gestures, brief words, and a quiet authority that inspired trust. He did not command out of ego. He guided out of necessity, making sure everyone survived. Lisa followed behind, ensuring that any injuries were treated quickly. Lyra began to see the human spirit not as a legend, but as a living, breathing force that could shape outcomes even in the face of overwhelming danger. That evening, as the sun set over the colony, the humans gathered to discuss strategy. They knew more attacks would come, and the alien forces were relentless. Elira listened as Jack outlined plans, assigning roles and responsibilities with calm precision. She noticed how the humans communicated not just with words, but with understanding. Each person knew the importance of their actions, the value of teamwork, and the cost of failure. It was a level of coordination that could not be learned from books or drills. It came from experience. From living through hardship together, as night fell, a sudden alarm rang out. Scouts had spotted a reconnaissance team from the alien fleet approaching the outskirts of the colony. Jack immediately organized a response, sending out small teams to intercept and slow the enemy. Elira followed at a distance, marveling at the humans' ability to adapt to unpredictable threats. Even when facing an enemy far stronger and more advanced, they relied on wit, terrain, and teamwork to survive. She realized that this was what made humans legendary, not invincibility, but ingenuity and heart. During the skirmish, Jack was injured while protecting a group of civilians. Elira and Lisa rushed to his side, helping him back to safety. Elira was struck by the depth of care the humans showed for each other. No one left anyone behind, not even in the chaos of battle. It was a stark contrast to her own world, where order and rules often took precedence over empathy. The humans' courage was inseparable from their compassion, and it was this combination that made them formidable, as the humans tended to the wounded and regrouped. Elira spent time speaking with some of the engineers and workers. She learned how they had turned old machinery into effective defenses, how they shared knowledge freely, and how they found solutions under pressure. Kevin Ross, a skilled mechanic, explained how every piece of equipment could be repurposed if you understood its function and limitations. Elira realized that humans thrived on creativity and flexibility, qualities that her people often overlooked in favor of strict discipline. It was a revelation that challenged her understanding of strength and leadership. Later that night, Elira sat quietly, reflecting on what she had learned. She thought about the legends she had been told as a child, and how incomplete they were. Humans were not merely myths of reckless bravery. They were intelligent, adaptive, and deeply moral beings. Their stories of courage were not about glory or conquest, but about survival, care for one another, and unwavering resolve. She felt a growing respect and something more complex. It's a recognition that humans could inspire hope even in the darkest moments. The next day brought new challenges. A larger wave of alien ships appeared near the colony, testing the humans' defenses. Jack coordinated the evacuation of civilians while leading a small team to engage the enemy. Elira stayed close, helping where she could without revealing herself too openly. She watched as humans used clever tactics, setting traps, and leveraging the terrain to offset the aliens' superior technology. It was a lesson in strategy, ingenuity, and trust. Each human understood their role. Each action contributed to the survival of the many. During a brief respite, Lyra spoke with some of the younger members of the colony, hearing their fears and hopes. They had grown up in a world of danger, yet their optimism was not lost. They shared small joys: a repaired ship, a successful trap, a safe return from patrol land. These moments of triumph, however minor, were celebrated together. Elira realized that human resilience was as much about maintaining hope and morale as it was about fighting. It was a balance that no legend could fully capture. As tensions rose and the alien forces pressed closer, Lyra's understanding deepened. Humans were united by more than necessity. They were united by care, trust, and shared responsibility. Even in moments of fear, they acted with thoughtfulness and courage. She thought of Jack's quiet leadership, Lisa's unwavering care, and the countless small actions that kept the colony alive. These were the actions that created legends. Far beyond the stories she had grown up hearing, when the alien commanders demanded surrender, Elira intervened subtly, signaling that humans were not to be underestimated. Jack and his team refused, choosing instead to continue defending the colony while ensuring the safety of civilians. Elira watched as the humans prepared for what could have been their last stand, and she understood the true depth of their courage. It was not a reckless bravery, but a deliberate, thoughtful determination to protect others, even at great personal risk. That night, Elira sat with Jack and Lisa. watching the stars and reflecting on everything she had witnessed. The humans had survived multiple encounters, adapted to challenges, and maintained hope in a way that seemed almost impossible. She realized that she could never report them as mere legends. They were real, living beings whose courage and ingenuity could change the course of events in the galaxy. She felt a deep respect and a growing sense of responsibility, knowing that her actions and decisions could influence how her people viewed humans in the future. As the settlement settled into an uneasy rest, Alira considered what lay ahead. The humans were not invincible, and more challenges would come, but their spirit was unbreakable. She understood now that legends were not born from tales alone. They were created through action, courage, and compassion. Humans had proven themselves, not through conquest, but through their determination to survive and protect one another. Alira felt a quiet pride in witnessing this, knowing that she had seen the truth behind the myths for herself. The morning arrived with a strange calm over the human colony. The air was tense, but there was a quiet determination in every movement. Alira had watched humans adapt, survive, and even thrive under pressure, but today would test them like never before. The alien fleet had intensified their presence, and rumors spread that their champion, a warrior of formidable skill, had been sent to face the humans directly. The colony knew this was a ritual of sorts in the alien culture, one that demanded a confrontation to determine respect and surrender. Jack understood the implications and prepared himself quietly. He did not seek glory, but he knew what he had to do to protect his people. Alira stayed close, observing. She had learned much about humans in the past days, but what came next would reveal the depth of their courage in a way that no story could capture. The humans gathered, not in fear, but with a shared resolve. Engineers and farmers, medics and teachers, even children were given instructions to help in practical ways, providing cover, managing supplies, and keeping morale high. The community moved as one, understanding that survival depended on unity, intelligence, and careful planning. Alira could see the quiet strength that held them together, and she was increasingly certain that humans were not only real, but extraordinary. When the alien champion arrived, the settlement held its breath. The warrior was larger than most humans, clad in armor that gleamed like a mirror under the sunlight. Alira felt a shiver, not from fear, but from awe. Jack stepped forward, not with a weapon of overwhelming power, but with determination, his every step a declaration that he would not back down. Lisa and other humans watched with quiet concern, knowing the odds were stacked against their champion. Yet there was trust in their eyes, trust that he represented them, that he carried their courage and hopes. The duel began with a tense silence. The alien warrior moved with precision, each strike deliberate and powerful. Jack relied on agility, intelligence, and timing, using the environment to his advantage. Debris, uneven terrain, and small barricades became tools in his strategy. Alira watched closely, noticing how Jack analyzed every move, anticipating, adapting, and exploiting weaknesses. The fight was brutal, but it was not reckless. Every action had purpose. Every decision reflected his humanity, the willingness to risk himself for others. As the battle continued, Alira saw something remarkable. The alien champion expected fear, expected humans to crumble under superior strength, but Jack did not. He stood, fell, and rose again, each time more determined, his resilience a silent defiance. Alira felt a deep admiration for the human warrior. Realizing that legends of courage were not merely stories, they were embodied in moments like this. The alien commanders observed, some beginning to whisper among themselves. Humans were not myths. They were alive, real, and capable of something that even their advanced technology could not predict. In the settlement, Lisa and other humans supported Jack in subtle ways. They provided strategic guidance, set up diversions, and ensured that civilians were safe. Alira noticed how the humans worked quietly in the background, knowing that the outcome of one fight did not rest solely on one individual, but on the collective effort. This unity and support strengthened Jack, allowing him to endure longer, fight smarter, and inspire awe in those who watched. Alira felt her belief in the old stories transform into something more profound, a recognition that humans embodied. Resilience and ingenuity on every level, the duel intensified. Jack took heavy hits, but he refused to yield. He drew upon every lesson he had learned: observation, adaptation, and the willingness to persevere despite fear and pain. Each movement told a story of determination, of protecting not just himself, but everyone who depended on him. Alira could see the humanity in every decision, every step, every strike. The alien champion, despite skill and strength, could not predict the unwavering will of a human fighting not for victory alone, but for life, family, and community. After hours of struggle, Jack managed to exploit a momentary opening. Using a combination of agility and clever use of the terrain, he outmaneuvered the alien warrior, forcing a surrender. The silence that followed was profound. The humans around him did not cheer immediately. Instead, they breathed, absorbing the magnitude of what had just occurred. The alien commanders, who had anticipated an easy victory, now faced the undeniable truth. Humans were far more capable than legend or expectation had suggested. Alira felt a surge of pride and relief, knowing that she had witnessed a turning point that could change her people's perception forever. As the dust settled, Jack returned to the settlement, exhausted but unharmed beyond minor injuries. Lisa tended to him, and other humans offered quiet support and congratulations. The community had survived a test that seemed impossible, and they had done so through courage, intelligence, and unwavering unity. Alira walked among them, absorbing the scene, feeling a deep respect for their resilience and spirit. Humans were no longer stories. They were living proof of what strength of character and compassion could achieve. In the following days, Alira spoke privately with some of the alien commanders. She described what she had seen, detailing how humans had coordinated, adapted, and fought with a determination that defied expectations. Her words carried weight because they were based on observation, not myth. The commanders began to reconsider their assumptions, realizing that humans were not to be underestimated. Alira had become an advocate for the truth she had witnessed, bridging the gap between two worlds that had long misunderstood one another. Meanwhile, the colony continued to rebuild and reinforce its defenses. Jack, Lisa, and the engineers worked tirelessly, knowing that threats might return. Yet there was a sense of optimism, a quiet confidence that arose not from invincibility, but from proven resilience. Alira observed the humans in daily life. Children learning, families working together, and community members sharing responsibilities. The strength of the humans was not only in combat, but in their ability to maintain hope and cooperation under pressure. She realized that this combination of courage, intelligence, and care for one another defined what it meant to be human. One evening, Alira joined Jack and Lisa at a small fire outside the settlement. The air was cool, the stars glittered above, and there was a sense of peace, however temporary. They spoke of the battle, but also of life, hope, and what it meant to survive together. Alira found herself reflecting on her own beliefs, realizing that humans had taught her lessons about courage, resilience, and unity that could not be captured in books or lectures. She understood now that legends were not just stories. They were lived experiences, embodied in the actions of those who refused to surrender to fear. As days passed, the alien fleet withdrew slightly, acknowledging that humans were a force to be respected. Alira continued to act as a liaison of sorts, ensuring that her people understood the truth about the humans she had observed. She knew that more challenges would come, but she felt confident in the humans' ability to endure and adapt. They had proven themselves in ways that no story or legend could fully describe, and their courage would echo far beyond this isolated colony. Alira spent quiet moments walking among the humans, seeing the ordinary and extraordinary aspects of their lives. She watched engineers repair damaged vehicles with ingenuity, medics treat injuries with care, and families support one another through hardship. She saw strength, not just in physical ability, but in compassion, perseverance, and the determination to protect what mattered most. It was a revelation that changed her understanding of power, courage, and the essence of heroism. As the sun set over the settlement, Alira looked toward the stars, reflecting on everything she had witnessed. Humans were no longer myths, no longer just stories whispered across generations. They were real, living beings whose courage, ingenuity, and compassion could challenge even the most formidable forces. She knew that the encounter she had witnessed, the duel, the strategies, the everyday resilience was only the beginning of a much larger story. Humans had proven themselves, and in doing so, they had rewritten the legends that had long shaped perceptions across the galaxy. The days following the duel were filled with a quiet sense of accomplishment in the human colony. Alien fleet had withdrawn partially, recognizing that humans were not to be underestimated. The settlement, though battered, continued to function with remarkable efficiency. Lyra observed everything closely, noting the calm determination in each human action. They were not invincible, but their unity, courage, and resourcefulness had carried them through challenges that would have broken others. Jack continued to lead the colony's defenses, balancing vigilance with the need to allow people to rest and rebuild. Lisa worked tirelessly, tending to injuries and ensuring the community stayed healthy and morale remained strong. Engineers, farmers, and volunteers contributed wherever they could, showing a level of cooperation and adaptability that Alira found extraordinary. She walked among them, helping in small ways, learning the rhythms of daily life, and witnessing the quiet heroism that occurred far from the battlefield. The alien commanders sent envoys to discuss terms and trade. Recognizing that humans could not be controlled through fear alone, Alira accompanied the first meeting, acting as a witness to ensure honesty between the species. She watched humans interact with diplomacy and clarity, expressing their needs and boundaries without hostility. The aliens, initially surprised by the humans' confidence, began to understand that they were facing a civilization with intelligence and strength of character, not myths to be dismissed. Alira found herself reflecting on her role in bridging the gap between two worlds. She had grown up hearing stories about humans as legends, and now she knew the truth. Humans were real, capable, and extraordinary in ways that her people had never anticipated. She shared her observations with her superiors, describing not just the humans' fighting ability, but their creativity, resilience, and unwavering commitment to each other. Slowly, the alien perception began to shift, influenced by the evidence she provided and the undeniable impact of Jack's leadership. As the colony rebuilt, Jack and Lisa focused on strengthening their community for future challenges. They implemented new strategies for defense, improved communication systems, and developed methods for training volunteers quickly and effectively. Alira witnessed their careful planning and tireless work, understanding that human strength lay as much in preparation and intelligence as in courage. Even ordinary citizens contributed, offering their skills and knowledge to help the colony thrive. Children continued to play and learn, growing up with the lessons of bravery and cooperation embedded in their daily lives. Alira observed how parents balanced guidance and independence, teaching resilience through small responsibilities and shared experiences. She saw the humans' capacity for hope and determination, and she realized that legends were not born from extraordinary powers alone, but from the everyday acts of courage and care that sustained communities. One afternoon, Lyra joined Jack and Lisa for a quiet walk outside the settlement. They discussed the future, the challenges that might come, and the possibilities for collaboration with the alien fleet. Alira shared her thoughts about what she had seen: humans who could inspire hope, lead with wisdom, and endure against overwhelming odds. Jack listened, acknowledging her perspective, and together they considered how humans and aliens might learn from each other, respecting strengths while bridging differences. Over time, the colony became a model of resilience and cooperation. Trade and communication were established with nearby settlements and alien outposts. Alira saw humans teaching each other skills, sharing knowledge, and supporting newcomers. She marveled at their adaptability and commitment to one another. Every success, no matter how small, reinforced her belief that humans were not just survivors, They were a civilization capable of shaping their own destiny. Illyra also saw the human ability to celebrate victories, even small ones, as an essential part of maintaining morale. Meals were shared, stories told, and moments of laughter preserved even in the shadow of past danger. She realized that hope and joy were as important as courage and intelligence in sustaining life. And humans had mastered this balance, had proven themselves not through force alone, but through a combination of empathy, creativity, and determination that Illyra had never witnessed in her own world. As weeks passed, Illyra recorded her observations in detail, creating a report that would serve as a historical record for her people. She described Jack's leadership, Lisa's compassion, and the community's collective strength. She noted the humans' ability to adapt, cooperate, and endure, emphasizing that these qualities were the foundation of their legend. Illyra understood that the humans she had observed were not exceptional because of luck or circumstance, but because of deliberate choices, shared values, and an unwavering commitment to protect one another. The colony continued to thrive under these principles, demonstrating that survival depended not only on technology or firepower, but on human qualities that could not be measured by conventional standards. Illyra watched with admiration as the humans built a culture of resilience, where courage and compassion were inseparable and where every individual played a role in sustaining the whole. She recognized that these qualities were the true measure of a civilization's strength. One evening, as the sun set and the settlement settled into calm, Illyra joined the humans around a small fire. They shared stories of past challenges and small triumphs, laughter mingling with quiet reflection. She realized that these moments were as important as any battle or victory. The humans' ability to find meaning, hope, and connection in everyday life was part of what made them remarkable. Illyra felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing she had witnessed the human spirit in its entirety as the stars rose above the settlement. Illyra knew that the story of humans was far from over. There would be challenges, conflicts, and uncertainties ahead, but she had seen enough to understand that humans were capable of meeting them. Their courage, intelligence, and compassion had created a foundation for resilience that would endure beyond the immediate crisis. Illyra felt honored to have witnessed their journey and to have played a part in sharing the truth with her own people. In her final observations, Illyra concluded that humans were not legends in the sense of being distant or unattainable. They were living, breathing examples of determination, unity, and hope. The duel with the alien champion, the community's cooperation, and the everyday acts of courage had all contributed to a legacy that was real, tangible, and inspiring. She understood now that the stories she had been told as a child were incomplete, but the humans themselves were more than capable of living up to any legend. As the settlement prepared for a new day, Illyra reflected on the journey she had witnessed. Humans had proven themselves through action, resilience, and unwavering care for one another. She knew that their story would continue to grow, influencing not only their own civilization, but others across the galaxy. Jack, Lisa, and every member of the colony had shown that courage, intelligence, and compassion could overcome even the most formidable challenges. Illyra recorded this truth for her people, ensuring that humans would no longer be dismissed as myths, but celebrated as living proof that even in the vast expanse of space, determination and unity could shape destiny. The days after the alien retreat brought a period of cautious optimism to the human colony. Illyra stayed close, watching how humans rebuilt not just their settlement, but their confidence and sense of purpose. The colony had been tested in ways few civilizations had ever experienced, and yet they were thriving. Jack continued to lead, balancing vigilance with planning for a sustainable future. Lisa focused on health and morale, helping people feel safe and supported. Engineers, farmers, and volunteers worked tirelessly, knowing that their collective effort was what would ensure long-term survival. Lyra began to see patterns in human behavior that she had never witnessed among her own people. Humans celebrated small victories, shared knowledge freely, and nurtured hope even under the weight of danger. Children played and learned responsibility simultaneously. Guided by parents who understood that teaching resilience was as important as protecting the settlement, every day contained lessons in courage, cooperation, and ingenuity. Illyra realized that humans were capable of extraordinary achievements, precisely because they valued one another and acted for the good of the whole. One morning, scouts reported the approach of a new fleet on the outskirts of the system. It was unclear whether they came as allies, observers, or another threat. Jack immediately called a meeting to assess the situation. He relied on careful planning, intelligence gathering, and the collective experience of the colony. Illyra watched as humans adapted seamlessly, each person understanding their role, anticipating challenges, and preparing solutions. She felt a growing admiration for how humans integrated knowledge, creativity, and courage to respond effectively to uncertainty during the day. Illyra joined a team of engineers repairing a damaged communications array. She observed how they worked, turning limited materials into functional tools. Kevin Ross explained each step patiently, showing Illyra how small adjustments could solve large problems. She realized that humans were not only brave in battle, but also brilliant in innovation. Their strength lay in their ability to analyze, adapt, and collaborate under pressure. It was this combination of intellect and courage that made humans legendary in ways that no story could fully capture. As the new fleet approached, humans prepared for both diplomacy and defense. Jack led the coordination, ensuring that civilians were moved to safety while sending scouts to assess the intentions of the newcomers. Lisa and other medics stood ready to respond to any injuries, maintaining calm and composure that inspired confidence. Illyra observed how humans balance caution with proactive action, never allowing fear to dictate their choices. Each decision reflected thought, care, and a commitment to protect the community. The alien fleet turned out to be observers, sent to study the humans after hearing reports of their recent victories. Illyra acted as liaison, facilitating communication and ensuring accurate understanding between the species. The humans engaged with calm confidence, explaining their strategies and demonstrating their resilience. Illyra watched as the aliens' initial skepticism faded into respect. Humans were not simply survivors. They were a civilization capable of planning adaptation and effective leadership under extreme pressure. Over the following days, Illyra spent time exploring the human settlement in detail. She visited schools where children learned practical skills, hospitals where medics trained for emergencies, and workshops where engineers designed and built critical equipment. She observed ordinary people performing extraordinary acts, not through force, but through intelligence, teamwork, and perseverance. She understood that humans' power lay not in advanced technology or brute strength, but in their ability to use what they had with creativity and purpose. One evening, Illyra joined Jack and Lisa for a quiet walk along the edge of the colony. They spoke about the challenges they had faced and the lessons they had learned. Jack emphasized the importance of trust and collaboration, explaining that every individual's contribution mattered. Lisa highlighted the need to maintain hope and resilience even when circumstances seemed grim. Illyra reflected on these insights, realizing that human strength was multifaceted. Courage, intelligence, compassion, and adaptability worked together to create a society capable of enduring almost anything. As weeks passed, humans expanded their defensive capabilities and prepared for possible future encounters. They trained volunteers, reinforced structures, and improved communication networks. Yet they also maintained their community spirit, celebrating achievements and supporting one another in moments of difficulty. Illyra marveled at how humans balanced vigilance with everyday life, ensuring that their society could thrive even under constant threat. It was a testament to their endurance and ingenuity. Illyra also witnessed the humans' ability to inspire one another. Stories of past victories and small acts of courage were shared openly, creating a culture of motivation and pride. She saw how even minor successes reinforced the belief that challenges could be overcome. Building a collective confidence that was vital for survival, humans did not rely solely on physical power. They drew strength from shared experience, mutual support, and unwavering determination. One afternoon, Illyra accompanied Jack on a reconnaissance mission beyond the immediate perimeter. They encountered natural hazards, malfunctioning equipment, and unforeseen challenges. But humans navigated each obstacle with adaptability and resourcefulness. Illyra noted that even in the face of uncertainty, humans remained composed, analyzing situations carefully and acting decisively. She realized that human courage was inseparable from intellect and empathy, creating a form of strength that no alien opponent could easily predict. As the sun set over the settlement, Illyra reflected on the growth she had witnessed. Humans had proven themselves repeatedly, not through brute force alone, but through resilience, cooperation, and the ability to learn and adapt. She recorded her observations meticulously, knowing that her reports would reshape perceptions across her people's civilization. She described Jack's leadership, Lisa's care, and the countless small acts of bravery that defined the community. These were the true foundations of legend. The human colony continued to flourish. Illyra's understanding of humanity deepened. She saw how ordinary tasks, repairing machinery, tending to children, organizing resources became extraordinary through intention, teamwork, and care. Humans thrived not because they were invincible, but because they understood the value of each individual, the power of collaboration, and the necessity of perseverance. Illyra realized that human stories of heroism were rooted in reality, and that every citizen contributed to the ongoing narrative of survival and triumph. During a peaceful evening, Illyra watched as the settlement gathered around a fire. Families shared meals, children laughed, and stories of past struggles and small victories were told. She understood that these moments were essential to human strength, reinforcing bonds, morale, and hope. Humans had survived not through fearlessness, but through determination, compassion, and the ability to find meaning and joy even in difficult circumstances. As stars dotted the sky, Illyra reflected on the larger implications of what she had witnessed. Humans were no longer myths or stories. They were living proof that courage, intelligence, and compassion could shape the outcome of events even in the vastness of space. She realized that their legacy would continue, influencing both human and alien civilizations alike. Every choice, every act of bravery and care, contributed to a narrative of resilience and possibility that would endure for generations.